Family Guy is known for many things, and its ultra-violent brawls are definitely one of them. Whether it's Peter versus a giant chicken, Peter versus his family, family versus each other, or pretty much any other combination you can think of, Family Guy has never shied away from having their characters destroy each other, and here are just a few of the best. But first, can't get enough of these great list videos? Well then check out our friend over on The Binger for even more lists, theories, and everything film. We couldn't possibly start this list off without the one that started a sensation, the original chicken fight. In Season 2, Episode 3, we first see Peter encounter Ernie, the giant chicken. The two have not stopped brawling since, with 4 huge citywide smackdowns in 4 separate episodes. And you might think that they have some old terrible grudge which keeps bringing them back for another beatdown, but actually, the whole thing started over an expired coupon. That's right, in the episode Da Boom, when it turns out to no longer be valid, Peter leaps through a window to attack him, and history was made. Another famed Family Guy showdown took place in the Season 3 episode Lethal Weapons. When Lois takes up taijutsu with Bonnie, she becomes incredibly strong, which Peter decides to exploit to his advantage. After she grows increasingly violent, it starts to rub off on the rest of the family, so Lois goes on a mission to rid their house of all pent-up anger. After a brief moment of calm amongst the Griffins, an argument between Peter and Lois turns to violence. In no time, the entire family is involved, and they really let each other have it. Well, it turns out that they just needed to let off some steam. It's possible that there could have been a better way to do that. Family Guy is known for being anything other than politically correct, and this next epic fight might be one of the best examples of that fact.
What are all these parallelograms doing here?
You mean paraplegics?
When Peter and the family open a restaurant, they have a tough time getting any customers to visit. This all changes when Joe and his other wheelchair-bound friends become regulars at the Griffin restaurant because of its accessibility. While Peter should be happy about this, he of course isn't, and bans wheelchairs altogether. Well, Joe and his friends don't take the news lightly, and band together to form a giant transformer and smash the restaurant to pieces. Sometimes Family Guy fights are super realistic and brutal, and sometimes they're just hilarious and super creative. This one, from the episode Long John Peter, in which Peter becomes a pirate after getting attached to a parrot, is the second kind. After banding together with 3 other wannabe pirates, the group begins to run around town causing mayhem. In one instance, they get into a battle with British man Shelley Boothbishop over a car full of sugarcane, spices, and tobacco that expertly copies the type of naval battles we've seen in the likes of Pirates of the Caribbean. It's fun to watch characters who would normally never fight with each other let loose, and this is exactly the case with the mild-mannered Cleveland in the episode The Cleveland Loretta Quagmire. After discovering that Quagmire has been having an affair with his wife Loretta, Cleveland has a hard time accessing his anger. Eventually, Peter gets it out of him, which is when Cleveland shows up at Quagmire's house and chases him around with a baseball bat. He never hits Quagmire himself, but every wall or surface he gets in Quagmire's house reveals another secret bed. Who else but Quagmire?
Giggity, giggity, goo.
Stewie and his half-brother from another mother, Bertram, have always had a tumultuous relationship, from before Bertram was born until the day he showed up on the playground in the episode Sibling Rivalry. While earlier, Stewie was dominant and ruled over the rest of the kids in the playground, Bertram shows up and threatens his position. Stewie then challenges Bertram to a good old-fashioned sword fight, and the result is truly epic. The two prove to be seriously skilled in swordplay, and take their fight all over the playground. But of course, Bertram turns out to be no match for Stewie, and admits his defeat. Even the best group of friends can fight sometimes, and Peter, Quagmire, Cleveland, and Joe are no different. Of course, they do it Family Guy style. In the Season 6 episode Believe It or Not, Joe's Walking on Air, Joe receives a leg transplant and starts making some big changes in his life. He starts hanging out with a new, more active group of friends, and even makes plans to leave his wife Bonnie. This leads Peter to believe that the only solution is to re-injure Joe, so things can go back to normal. The guys attempt to take him out, but a giant brawl ensues instead. The Family Guy Star Wars episodes were instant classics for their hilarious takes on the famous sci-fi movies.
How come I never get any lines in these things?
Shut up, Meg.
The reimagining of all of our favorite TV cartoon characters into some of our other favorite movie characters was just too good. And one fight in particular from Season 9's It's a Trap is one of the best. During a fight between a group of Ewoks and stormtroopers on the forest moon of Endor, things take a slight twist. As the Ewoks leap into the stormtroopers grab them and start swinging them around. Pretty soon they strip off their armor to reveal bikinis and start having a pillow fight using the Ewoks as pillows. Even feathers fly. And that's not the only pillow fight in Family Guy history either. In the season 7 episode, The Juice is Loose, which sees Peter welcoming O.J. Simpson into the Griffin household, you might think that the fight would have something to do with him. But actually, one of the best moments ever is between Peter, Quagmire, Joe, and Cleveland. While the guys are hanging out in the living room, they seem to get into a fun, harmless pillow fight. But things escalate quickly, and the guys seriously start going at it, until Lois opens the door and is accidentally punched in the face by Cleveland. Let's be honest, we've been waiting for Meg to get the chance to get back at her family for years now. As the butt of every joke and the recipient of a ton of torment by everyone around her, poor Meg has really had to put up with a lot, especially from Peter, her own father. In the episode Dial Meg for Murder, Meg goes to prison for sheltering an escaped inmate, and returns home later as a hardened criminal. In order to establish dominance, she beats the daylights out of Peter, who claimed to be the biggest, toughest guy in the house. And while violence is never the answer, when it comes to Meg and Peter after all these years, we only feel half bad for him. Meg and Chris have never been popular at school, and in season 16, when Brian writes an unpopular tweet that outrages the entire town of Quahog, they become even more socially rejected. In a scene in their school cafeteria, an angry mob of offended students tell Meg and Chris that they weren't allowed to eat with the rest of the school. Channeling the church massacre in Kingsman: The Secret Service, Meg and Chris take down every other kid in school with impressive speed and skill, all while the song Freebird plays triumphantly over top. It must be hard to be married to Peter Griffin. He's always coming up with insane ideas and extremely expensive-looking shenanigans that the family just kinda have to go along with.
Bocce balls!
I bought a tank!
Are you out of your mind?
Well, in the episode A Shot in the Dark, Lois has had enough. When Peter shows up in the living room with the terrible idea to go into town and paint himself black, Lois objects violently, and years of rage over his harebrained schemes comes out, and she totally beats the pulp out of Peter. Family Guy talks a lot about Peter's Irish heritage, though it's usually about the fact that he enjoys a couple of stereotypical traits like drinking and fighting. They really lean into this in the episode The Fighting Irish, which starts off by Peter bragging that he could take Liam Neeson in a fight. Neeson happens to be filming nearby, but rather than having the guts to challenge him, Peter becomes his assistant. Eventually, the two do throw down, and things go, well, pretty predictably. Liam Neeson effortlessly kicks Peter's butt, before heading off to get a free movie set haircut. Since the very beginning, fans have wondered if the creators of Family Guy and the people behind The Simpsons were ever going to have the two famous cartoon families cross paths. And in season 13, they got their answer. In the episode The Simpsons Guy, the Griffins wind up in Springfield. And for a while, it seems like Peter and Homer are actually going to be great friends. But then, of course, they wind up in a Peter versus the giant chicken style fight all across town. Almost as if the creators of the two shows are working out some pent-up feelings of their own. Don't worry, they eventually work it out. If you're not a big fan of the show, it might surprise you to learn that one of Stewie's biggest adversaries in season 11 was none other than a tiny turtle named Sheldon. That's right, when Stewie brings Sheldon home from the park, he quickly realizes that his new little friend is up to no good. It starts with little things, like unplugging Stewie's alarm clock and replacing Brian's alcohol with flat soda. But the two eventually wind up in a showdown brawl. It's almost hard not to root for the little guy too. After all, he is just a little turtle. While we'd never refer to the Griffins' creepy and inappropriate neighbor Herbert as a hero, in the episode German Guy, he kind of is. When Chris starts spending time with a new old German puppeteer named Franz, Herbert immediately recognizes him as a very evil German soldier that he encountered during World War II. After nobody else believes him, Herbert decides to take things into his own hands and goes to confront Franz. What follows is the most amazing slow-motion fight between two very senior men ever, and one of the best Family Guy fights of all time. Brian has taken some serious beatings in Family Guy history, and the one between him and Quagmire in the episode Quagmire's Dad actually seems like it was a long time coming. Quagmire has always hated Brian.
You're just a big, sad, alcoholic bore.
But when Brian unknowingly becomes intimate with Quagmire's father and Quagmire finds out, he really loses it. And while Brian has really done some stuff to deserve a good licking in the past, in this case, Quagmire might have reacted just a little too intensely. He runs from his house to the Griffins and just annihilates Brian all through the house. While he may have taken a beating, Brian does get the last word in the end.
Your dad.
Another one of the most famous fights in all of Family Guy history has to be the "Where's My Money" fight between Brian and Stewie. After Stewie becomes a sports bookie, Brian places a $50 bet on a boxing match between Mike Tyson and Carol Channing, and loses. When he doesn't repay Stewie in time, Stewie lets Brian know in no uncertain terms that he is not okay with that. Lois Kills Stewie was the second part of a 2-episode special in which Stewie finally got to live out his long-held fantasy of killing Lois, only for Lois to return and announce to the world that her baby had left her for dead in the middle of the ocean, after riddling her with bullets. Towards the end of the episode, Lois and Stewie engage in a Rambo-style shootout fight in the Oval Office of the White House. After destroying everything around them for over 2 straight minutes, Peter walks in and actually takes out Stewie, or so it would seem, until it is revealed that it was all a simulation. When fans saw that Peter had accepted a job offer to become the new White House press secretary, and that Family Guy intended to do a Trump-themed episode, the opinions and speculations started to fly. We figured they'd be taking aim at the current administration and would throw their classic Family Guy irreverent spin on it. But something we never could have predicted was the fight scene. That's right, the episode features a 4-minute-long battle royale between Peter and Donald Trump, spurred on by the fact that Trump attacked Meg. The two violently go at it all over Washington, D.C. until they're finally saved by a random intervention by Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau. They really don't pull any punches over there at Family Guy. And don't forget, if you like this type of content, you will be sure to love one of our brand new channels, The Binger. We present a collection of fast-paced, fun, and exciting movie-based videos. Go head over there and let them know we sent ya. What did you think of this list? Do you think there's just too much violence going on the show? Or are there any awesome fights we missed? Let us know down below, and we hope you had fun watching.